All right, here we go. Welcome back to dentReviews. This is the ER2XR. We are going to go over this bad boy, and let me tell you, this is a bad boy. Mark over at SuperView, thank you for letting me borrow these. He knows that I'm into Etymotic big time, and he also knows that I've been finding I have an affinity for dynamic driver, so of course, makes sense. He said, oh, let me send him the dynamic driver Etymotics. And here they are. I have the SE and the XR here. This is a review of the XR, and let me tell you, this is, in my opinion, the single best Etymotic earphone. That is, I'm just going to come out and say it and not waste any time. All the same stuff as usual. I'm not going to go over too much. This is actually the ER4 cable he's got on here, but the cable for the ER2 is this SE cable here. It's the same cable. It's got the right angle adapter, fits in lots of cases. It's got the same earpieces. They're blue, which are gorgeous. Same ear tips. It's got a smaller Y split, which I like a lot. That's good. Boom, bada, bing, bada, boom. So anyway, that's all pretty much the same. You can check that out in any other review video, whatever. All I care about in this particular review, if you're not familiar with Etymotic, check out the other videos. But if you are, is the sound. The ER2XR. What does it sound like? Well, this is basically an ER4XR with a dynamic driver. Now, the response is a little bit different. The overall linearity maintains the Etymotic target, but there's a slight softer treble area up in like 5 to 8 kilohertz, something like that. And there's a little bit more low bass on these, just a little bit. Now, those two things combined give these a slightly darker tone than the ER4XR. And, you know, I wish it was more in line with the ER4XR's response. However, I will say this, even despite the difference in response, the dynamic driver characteristic that these exhibit, in my mind, brings them above the ER4XR for the most part. The ER4XR does excel in the frequency response. It's probably my favorite ER response-wise, but this is my favorite ER in terms of the perception of the sound. The dynamic driver in these lends itself to a more natural characteristic in instrumentation. So pianos sound like pianos, guitars sound like guitars. And what I mean by that is when you strum a guitar, there's a certain body to the attack and the strings and the nuances of that I think a dynamic driver catches better than a balanced armature. Some people say the balanced armatures are plasticky or whatever, and I'm not going to say that, but what I do think is the balanced armatures come across as maybe sounding thinner, even with the same frequency response. And I think a lot of that has to do with the decay and the transient attack speed. I don't know, but that's my theory, because the longer decay in the bass makes the bass on a dynamic driver sound fuller and more present, and the quality and type of attack of the treble makes it sound more realistic to me. So despite the discrepancy in the frequency response between the 4 and the 2, I think these XRs sound more natural, just a little bit darker but more natural. And for me, I prefer that sound over the perfect frequency response. Now, if this was the ER4XR response and dynamic, that would be something to behold. Now, Super Review and I were talking about throwing the brown filters in these, but I don't have any, but that should actually probably improve the response a little bit by cutting the bass just ever so slightly, like literally not even half a decibel, and then it brings up some of the treble areas about a decibel or two, and that should possibly open these up just a little bit, and I think it might make them a little bit more close to the XR, ER4XR. So that's something we want to try. But nonetheless, if you want a ER series earphone like all the others, but with that added dynamic driver characteristic, this is the way to go. I really think the linear sound coupled with the dynamic driver is phenomenal. Go check out the other reviews if you want more information on the Etymotics, but basically this just takes the cake in my opinion. I love this thing, and more than anything, it is the best value. These are currently $110, $120 on Adorama, and they were recently less. These are phenomenal bang for your buck. In fact, the Etymotic series are all, above $100. The 3 and the 4, they go up $300 and whatever. These are so cheap, and yet every bit as good as the other Etymotics. I highly, highly recommend these. This is my go-to Etymotic right now, and I'm probably going to be buying one of these in possibly replacing my other ones, at least all but the ER4XR. I might keep that one. I don't know yet. But this is great. I highly recommend it. If you guys have any questions at all, let me know. But Dynamic Etymotic, you have my thumbs up. Boom. Thank you guys. Leave questions below. Boom.